Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Weedcast. Another exciting episode. I promise you won't regret this one. We're going to have a good time tonight. We got Laurie Parfitt on deck. She's going to be our guest for this evening. Upcoming show, I got some exciting information about next week's show. Special guest next week. I'm going to be the special guest next week. I'm going to actually, and so we're going to have a new host for one episode next week. My wife has agreed to be the host. So I am going to be interviewed by my wife. That should be fun. Tune in for that next week. And then upcoming on the 21st, we got Darwin Millard, the Spock of Cannabis. And the following week, on October 28th, I have an amazing guest, another amazing female guest coming up, Luna Stour. Right now, I don't have anything going on for October 14th, so if you're interested in being a guest, reach out to me. Oh, our standard disclaimer. Don't believe anything I say. Don't believe anything my co-hosts or guests say. We're not here to provide legal or financial advice. Do your own research. We're here just to entertain and provide some thought-provoking entertainment. So, my first person that I would love to bring on the show is a lady that's quickly becoming a friend of mine in the Kansas City community. Seems like every time I go somewhere, she's there. It's my friend, Samantha Porter. See if we can get
Hello,
her on
how's
the
it
stage.
going?
Hey,
Thanks for
good. How
having
are
me
you doing,
again.
Samantha? Yeah, no worries. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here. So, Samantha, tell us, give us a little introduction about you and tell us, actually, first, before we get to that, I have an interview question for you. You're doing something today in the community. You're a little activist. What were you up to today?
Well, today I was working with a nonprofit to raise some money for them and try to, bring more um, just social equity to the industry, specifically more women-based. But Jane, the nonprofit, they're a great industry to be a part of, so I helped them do like a fundraising event today. So that was pretty fun.
Awesome. Excellent. So, tell everybody what you do. It's funny that you're a co-host because you've never actually been an official a guest. Like you've been a guest, but as a group of other people. You've never been like the
That's true.
solo guest. But you
That's
definitely
true.
deserve a co-host spot on my show, and I'd love to have
I
you come
appreciate
back
that.
as a guest. I have an opening on the 14th. um, so um, tell
So
us
I could,
about
yeah.
your what you're doing in the community now, bud tender and real estate agent. Tell us about that a little bit.
Well, I'm primarily leaning much more heavily onto the social injustice of the banking side lately. I've been dealing with tons of issues in the cannabis community trying to get financing regarding to businesses and people just trying to buy homes, cars, or even start their new dream business. But there's obviously a halt because of the federally illegal problem. And so my more recent stuff that I'm working on right now is where I'm going to be going in front of the FDIC on October 30th at their very early morning meeting. It's a public outreach meeting. Quarterly, they go to different cities and ask for public feedback on their current policies. So I signed up to speak, and I'm going to be bringing to them the problem of the injustice of the community regarding cannabis businesses and cannabis employees, etc. So I'm just going to be saying, hey, we don't ask for special privileges, but we would like you to give us guidance on what to do because right now we're all in the wild, wild west of banking right now. So, yeah.
So awesome. We recently had so everywhere I go, seems like there's Samantha. She's already doing something. And the kid, I was like, she's like, I'm going to be speaking at the normal event. I was like, wow, I'm going to be there too. So
Me too.
we just got done speaking at the Kansas City normal event. That was a lot of fun. The 10-year anniversary speaking event.
Yes, that was
Uh,
awesome. Molly put together a really good event.
she did. Okay. Now it is time to bring on the guest of honor. It is my absolute honor to bring our main guest for this evening. She's a true C-suite executive, a powerhouse brand builder, and a strategic leader who has driven results at the highest levels of both the Fortune 500 world and the cannabis industry. Her resume includes some names you know: Kraft Foods, Jim Beam, Ragu, where she managed iconic billion-dollar brands. She then brought that incredible CPG discipline to the cannabis space as a vice president of marketing for a multi-state operator before taking the entrepreneurial leap and found her own firm, LKP Impact Consulting. As a fractional CMO, she is a secret weapon that growing cannabis companies call when they need to scale, build a powerful brand, and drive real revenue. She's a prolific industry speaker, a mentor to the next generation, a teacher, and a mother of three, and a wife, and so much more. I'm only scratching the tip of the iceberg here. Please give me a Weedcast welcome to our guest, Laurie Parfitt. Hey, Laurie.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad that you're here. Laurie, tell us about LKP Impact Consulting.
So LKP Impact Consulting was founded in 2020 when I left Forefront, who was a multi-state operator. We are a fractional CMO firm. We help brands, operators, technology, and ancillary services across the industry who don't need or can't afford full-time marketing support. We provide it at a size and scale for small to mid-sized businesses. So the whole kind of thought process behind it, when I joined the cannabis space, I thought, okay, I'm coming into this brand new industry. You know, the things we see in CPG and in beverage alcohol, the layoffs, restructurings, that's not going to be here yet because it's still too new. I was totally wrong. And what I quickly learned is that the average tenure of a CMO in cannabis is about 6 months. Maybe it's a little longer now. And so when money gets tight, the first thing to go is marketing. And a lot of these companies can't afford full-time C-suite executives. So in order to make it work for small to mid-sized businesses, I found that fractional was really the way to go. So you can kind of own that 6 months.
Nice. Before we get into a lot more stuff, I want to ask the question that I always ask my guests to start off with. And tell me as little or as much as you're comfortable sharing about your first cannabis use.
Oh my gosh. So that was definitely in high school. As much as I toe the line now, I did not toe the line in high school. So I was one of those people who started early and then was kind of a good girl in college.
Oh, strange. Okay.
Yeah. And so
I understand that.
I'm so glad. And so, yeah, I got kind of all out of my system in high school. So by the time I got to college, I was like, I've done it. I'm good. But yeah, I had a boyfriend and he had a bowl and they were passing it around. And that was the first time I ever tried it. And back when I was in high school, which was like a million years ago, I won't even tell you how old I am. There weren't things like edibles or beverages or tinctures or any of those.
Sure. Yeah.
Methods. It was really just, flour, and you put it in a bowl or you rolled it into a joint, and that was what you did.
Right. Yeah.
But I say the first time I got a little paranoid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's understandable.
So I grew up in the era of don't use drugs. I was a kid. Now you all probably can figure out how old I am. Having grown up in the Nancy Reagan days. And so you're
just say
taught
no.
that, this is your brain on drugs, and it was fried egg, and you get really nervous about it. And I had a mother who still thinks to this day I'm getting arrested. And she you have to stay away from drugs, from alcohol. She never smoked a cigarette. So she had, all of us scared that if we did anything, we were all going to die.
Right. Yeah, I had kind of a similar upbringing where I was told, just say no to drugs. But I got some mixed messages from my mom, and that was just enough for me to be confused. Okay, let me just try this marijuana. And then I gave it a little whirl, and it's been a love affair ever since.
I grew up in the the dare classes, so now it's all just like a joke for my generation because
Yeah,
we'd all wear the dare shirts because of so much of a joke of education that was.
yeah, unfortunately. But they really got the message out, didn't they? We all knew what the DARE program was. In that sense, it was a huge success.
Hey, the branding was good.
It was.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Let's see here.
How I got you, Dave. You want me to do this one?
Yeah.
How has your personal relationship with cannabis evolved from your first experience to now? I imagine it's much different as far as business stuff goes, but I guess what is your relationship with the actual plant itself these days?
Very different. So, I was one of those people who used cannabis a lot in high school, a little bit in college, but then I had to give it up because if I was denied gainful employment because of a failed drug screen, my dad would have killed me after paying for 4 years of college.
Understandable.
And so I towed the line. I became the good girl. I did all the right things. No cannabis, no illicit drugs at all. I was always afraid of being drug tested. And so I didn't use cannabis again until 2015 or 2016.
Wow.
And we were going to a Jimmy Buffett concert. And we're like, well, we have to have something for this. And so we got some gummies from one of our neighbors. And we had a really good time. And I loved it. And we had friends with us who were like trying to fight it. And I was like, no, this is fantastic. Why would you fight this?
So okay, go ahead.
Yeah, then, it kind of all snowballed from there. And I was using it kind of intermittently because Illinois was still a medical state. And so, and at the time I didn't have a medical card. So I just kind of got it from people who had medical cards. And then in 2018, I got a call from one of my former bosses, who's also my mentor, and he asked me for a job reference. And I was like, oh, what's the job? That sounds, exciting. And he goes, it's the president of a cannabis company. And I was like, oh, that sounds fantastic. And he's like, oh, and if I get this, you're coming with me. Is that okay? And I said, absolutely. I'm a high risk person. I am a swing for the fences. I am a try new things. And I'm not scared of a challenge. So then I got into the cannabis space and I didn't know a ton about it. I had somebody on my team who taught me. And now I am a big cannabis consumer.
That leads right into our next question, which basically is, what's your cannabis use like today? What kind of a role does it play today?
So for me, it's really about unplugging and being able to relax and focus on what's truly important. So I actually don't use it for like work purposes. And I don't consume anywhere really besides my home or, somewhere with my family and friends. So I look at it as something I do in the evenings or on the weekends to kind of unwind and kind of enjoy my world. Cannabis as a profession is incredibly challenging and stressful. And so being able to have that kind of break at the end of the day is really important for me.
Besides that kind of a mental break at the end of the day, and this is for you, a question for you too, Sam. Are there medical uses for cannabis?
Absolutely.
Talk about that briefly, please.
So I use it for sleep as well. So especially like when I travel, I use it mainly at home, but even when I travel for work, CBN
Okay.
has been pretty impactful for me. So that's the minor cannabinoid. I call it CB nighttime. And it really kind of helps kind of like knock you out so that you can sleep through the night. And I like it a lot because when I'm in a hotel or something like that, I have trouble sleeping. And it allows me to sleep through the night. So for sleep purposes, absolutely. I've also used it for inflammation. I'm a big workout person, a big weightlifter. I hurt myself a lot.
Yeah, me
And
too.
it helps kind of bring me back to where I need to be.
How about you, Sam?
I would agree with the unplugged part a lot. Some days can just be very mentally draining, and then my brain is go, 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 3 projects at one time. I'm constantly thinking, well, and then all of a sudden it's, and that's what it does. It just gets rid of all your thoughts, and it actually lets you relax. Especially with all of the like health issues that I've had and how my brain has reacted to them. Sometimes my mood swings can be also crazy. And so sometimes I'm pretty good at identifying it nowadays. So I can like step away, smoke, and come back and be like, all right, I'm okay again. Let's keep going. And some days I have to do that. Otherwise, I literally can't even get out of bed. It just depends.
And see, that's a medical need state too. So when we talk about, relaxation and things like that, that's really stress relief. And stress is definitely a medical need state.
100%. I totally agree. I also work out a lot, and there's a lady in the area that makes a pain salve that I use that's just miraculous. Rub a little bit of that on a joint or a sore muscle, or for inflammation also, it's wonderful. Jen provides that for me. Just Jen, if you're out there, thanks so much.
Those transdermals are the best. They're like the best part of the industry, in my opinion.
It's so interesting that you say that, because it's one of those areas of the industry that is not heavily utilized like it could be.
It's really not. Yeah, no, it's really not.
So topicals and transdermals are the entry point for the baby boomers.
For sure.
So that is how an older demographic enters the industry, because a lot of times they also are from that war on drugs era, and they are very scared about psychoactive effect, but they need help. And that's a way to get help without psychoactive effect.
Okay. Sam, back me up on this. I've seen this in dispensaries. Have you ever seen an elderly person kind of come into a dispensary and look like they're looking for something, but not really knowing what to ask for or what to say? And they just kind of walk around a little bit. Maybe they ask somebody a question and they kind of probably leave without getting anything.
Yep.
Big missed opportunity there. Huge missed opportunity. Because if they get something for the relief for their pain, which is probably what they're in there for, they're going to bring all their friends in there. Believe me.
Yep. Yeah, my favorite in medical Missouri, like when I first started being a bud tender, all these older ladies, were coming in like hunched over into a little ball, and we're just in so much pain coming in, like they could barely stand, and I would literally get them a chair sometimes. And then 3 months down the line, they've came to me once or twice a week for the last few months, and they're like, "Hi everyone, how's everybody doing today?" And like in such a good mood and happy, and it just makes me feel so good.
Nice. Yeah,
and it's usually those creams, and it's usually the creams and the patches and stuff like that.
Creams, patches, and then onto tinctures is usually their route to market. When I worked for Forefront, we had dispensaries in Maryland. So I had 4 that I was running out there. And we had a cannabis nurse on staff, and she had developed a relationship with an assisted living community. And we used to bus patients and their caregivers from the assisted living community. And the thing about the people who live in assisted living communities and just the older community in general is once they find a place they like, they're not shopping around.
No, they're like, we got it.
Yes.
Right there.
They're going to go to what they know. And there's a major need for that, and a major need to educate that community, because they could probably benefit almost the most from cannabis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, what you talked about people not, coming into dispensaries and looking around and not knowing what to do and leaving, that is incumbent upon the dispensary to create a customer experience that is warm, loving, and engaging, and really understand that consumer path to purchase, so that person isn't just wandering aimlessly, that they can come up to the bud tender and not feel silly, and that bud tender can ask them what brought them in today. Is it because they have pain, or is it because they have inflammation or sleep issues? What is the reason, and how would they like to solve it? And then being able to guide them through that process to get them the right product for them.
What do you
Yeah,
think
that's
about?
something. Go ahead.
What do you think about this idea? I have a micro business dispensary license that I'm trying to get going, and one of the things that I want to do is have a private consultation area where, like, if somebody like with PTSD comes in, or somebody who doesn't want to talk about whatever problem that they're coming in for, would like a private area to talk to somebody.
Mhm.
Or maybe you just go for a walk with that person. Maybe let's just step outside and go for a walk, maybe. I don't know. But I like the private consultation area to discuss things like that. Do you think that has any merit, Laurie?
Yes, I do. In fact, so when I ran dispensaries, we were on the medical side. And so we had consultation rooms in most of our dispensaries. So actually our Michigan one, which was initially called Home of Medicine, it was right in Ann Arbor. There were consultation rooms in the back. And I think it's really important especially for medical patients, to feel comfortable being able to talk about their needs, their issues, and do it in a way where they can maintain their dignity and their privacy. And so that, to me, is a really important thing to have, especially if you have medical patients. So when I first started in the industry, one of the things I did was I went to that Michigan dispensary and I sat in the lobby area for a couple hours just to hear what people would say when they would come in. And the receptionist would always ask, like, hey, can I get your name and your email? And they'd be like, well, I don't want to give you my email because I don't want my wife to know I was here. I don't want my friends to know I was here. This is back in 2019.
Right.
And what I realized, there's, a lot of stigma around it, and people don't want everybody to know what's going on with them. So having those rooms where they can have a private conversation, just like they would with a medical professional, is very important. There's actually a company I talked to a few years ago. I have to kind of re-engage with them. And they, it's so funny. They were doing like these little booths, like that you can kind of take and put into your dispense. You can put them anywhere, any kind of, they were actually doing them for prisons.
Okay.
So that was a big part of their business, was prisons, because when you're an inmate in prison, you want to be able to talk to your lawyer. You want to be able to talk to your family. And you see the shows where everybody's like in line hearing what everybody says. And there's a lot of information that sometimes is delayed that other people shouldn't hear.
For sure.
And so they put these little booths into prisons where there's like single person booths where they can make phone calls by themselves. And there's still windows so you can see in if you need to. And then they had like 2-person booths. So like if they didn't have a room for you to meet with your attorney, you could meet in one of those booths. And I think that is actually a really interesting idea for dispensaries. And something I told them is a lot of dispensaries would want something that was small and compact that they could actually just kind of slot in versus build it into their entire design.
Right. Yeah.
And then you could have, you could have blinds in it and things like that so people can't see in, but at least then you have that conversation. I also helped an operator run a medical program here in Illinois. And one of the things they did was they had a medical coordinator in every dispensary that they had that had a medical license. And that person had an office. And so if somebody wanted to help signing up for a medical card or they had medical questions, they could go into that office and talk to the medical coordinator.
Nice.
So,
wow. We went deep into that. I asked a little question about medical, and we had a really nice conversation on that. That was wonderful. I'm going to get a lot of clips from that for later.
Well, I actually love medical because it's why we all started in this industry. We started to help people live better lives, take their own health care back. What ends up happening is when a market goes adult use, we forget about that medical patient. And that medical patient is really why we're all here.
Correct.
Okay, I'm going to let Samantha pick this back up.
Okay. You were talking about earlier about risk with, dealing with certain businesses and stuff. Do you have any like examples or like strategies you have to mitigate some risk with some companies or just with your own company?
So anything in the cannabis industry is incredibly risky. And so that's kind of why I like it, actually, because it's high risk, high reward. It requires you to be very creative and to troubleshoot and problem solve on the fly. And I'm a marketer. So marketing, especially in this industry, it's easy and challenging all at the same time. So it's easy because you don't have a lot of options. So you can kind of hone it down. But it's challenging because even the options you have can easily be shut down. You can easily get out of compliance. States change their marketing laws. In Missouri just did it recently as well. And it can change on a dime and you don't have any chance to rethink how you're doing things. So Missouri specifically, a few months ago, I was working with an operator and we got notice that all of a sudden we couldn't use animals or people anywhere on packaging, marketing, social media.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they didn't put a lot of specific guidance in there. It was just kind of general. And so then we're going back and we're like, okay, what does this mean? How can this be enacted? And they ended up coming back and they changed, like they left like the wording the same, but they changed the example, but the example didn't match the wording. So we're like, okay, which way do we go?
Yeah.
I tend to be a pretty conservative person. And so I am an ask for permission, not forgiveness person. And so, especially when I started on the medical side, one of the things I really focused on was making sure that I stayed above board on everything. Because the first thing someone said to me when I joined the industry was everything we do will affect this industry 10, 50, 100 years from now. So don't screw it up. He used a different word, but this is not going to use
no pressure.
And so I was like, that's awesome. I know nothing about cannabis and I could easily screw this up. And so that has actually stuck in my head. And so every time I get myself into a situation where people want me to play in the gray or do the ask for forgiveness, I'm like, if we don't stay above board on everything, if we don't always try to do the right thing, what will end up happening is the government, our adversaries and other industries, they're all going to start saying that we don't know what we're doing, that we don't do things the right way, that we're all stoners on the grassy knoll. And so I very much believe in asking for permission. So I also ran a dispensary in Pennsylvania, and I was working on the marketing for that. And I wanted to put together this promotion. It was going to be like a box that had multiple products in it, very much related to a need state. And I remember my outreach person in that dispensary being like, I don't know that Pennsylvania is going to allow this. And I'm like, okay, who's the regulator?
Yeah.
Introduce me to the regulator. I'm going to send this to them. I'm going to have them take a look at it and tell me why I can't do it. And so that's what I did. Yeah. I met with the regulator. I said, hey, this is what I want to do. Tell me what you think. And they're like, well, you can't do it this way. And I'm like, okay, tell me how I could do it that you would find acceptable. And they did. And they said, well, you could do this, 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 and this, and then it would be compliant. And I'm like, great. So you'll approve this if I do this, 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 and this. And then said, yep. And that's what I did.
Awesome. So
And I
you
think
found
that
a way to
makes it,
be proactive and work with somebody to find a solution in that particular example of how you manage risk.
yeah. And, and
Perfect.
then you also build the relationship with the regulator. So when you want to do things that might be a little bit more outside the box, they're more willing to troubleshoot that with you and strategize with you because they feel comfortable that you're not going to go around them. You're not going to do anything bad. You're not going to yell at them. I always feel sad when I hear regulators tell me that they're getting yelled at all the time, that
Yeah.
people are really nasty to them. And I'm like, that is not the way to go.
No. You
People are
want to,
people.
you
No.
want to, I agree. I've seen the same thing, Lori. I feel the same way as you. I think the people that are in charge in the state sometimes are doing a difficult job. And I think, in Missouri, sometimes they've even admitted to me that they don't know what's going. They're learning as they go. They've got a bunch of new employees that they just hired on recently, and sometimes you got to
We're
be patient with each
all
other.
learning as we go. We are building
Sure,
the plane as it's taking off.
right,
There's no
yeah,
Yep.
playbook for this.
yeah. So I think you
So,
can only benefit by trying to partner with the people that are doing the regulating of what you're doing.
right.
That's my
We're
thought.
all in it together and we have to treat it that way.
Yeah. Okay, let's switch gears just a little bit. I saw you recently renewed your vows after 13 years.
Yes, I did.
Lori, you're a like, I've said this before. I'm a big fanboy of what you do. You're an amazing, high performing individual. You're like the smart person in the room. I can't speak for Samantha, but from my perspective, you're the smart person in the room, and you make me feel like I've just wasted my whole life for all your accomplishments. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with this, and how do you manage being such a high performer and also juggling a personal life?
I'm going to tell you, it's definitely not easy.
I can bet.
I was brought up to believe that you could have it all, but what I realized is you can't have it all at the same time.
That's
And
epic.
so,
That is epic. Nice.
my journey has been pretty interesting. So this is my husband of 13 years. That is us 13 years ago on Mackinac Island when we got married.
Nice.
Our second marriages. I have a child from
Beautiful.
first marriage. And that is us last week, actually. So we
Nice.
renewed our vows in Barcelona, Spain.
Hey, congratulations. So that was fun, I bet.
So our first wedding was not what I wanted. So my very first wedding was like a 250 person huge wedding in downtown Chicago. And I was divorced within 7 years. And so I was like, you know what? If the wedding matters at all, I'm with the wrong person. So when I got married the second time, I was like, I just want to elope. I want to just go off and just have it be us. And my in-laws really wanted to be there. And so we did a small wedding on Mackinac Island. But my dream was to get married in a small synagogue, just me, my husband, and a rabbi or a cantor. And so we actually renewed our vows in an ancient synagogue in Barcelona.
Wow. Nice.
It's called Synagoga Mayor, and it's from the 6th century, and it got rediscovered in the 13th century.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness.
And it's 2 small little rooms kind of underground. There's like a little door. You feel like you're going into Alice in Wonderland almost. You're like going into this little door. You go down the stairs, and it's just these 2 little rooms, and that's one of the rooms that you see right there. And there's glass on the floor because they've preserved the old floor, and it's very well preserved, but very small and very intimate. And our renewal was just my husband and I, a cantor, and there were 4 witnesses there who were basically holding up our chuppah. And so it was a traditional Jewish wedding 13 years later.
Awesome. I've been remiss. I asked the next 2 questions in a row. So let's see, Samantha, can you go with this one here?
Yeah. Started in finance before moving to some of the bigger corporate food giants. How did that kind of shape your cannabis career geared profession now?
That's a great question. And actually it's how did it shape my entire career?
Yeah.
So I actually went to school for merchandising. And then my senior year of college, I interned on Capitol Hill and I focused on labor, health, human services, and education, and then the Financial Services Act. And I decided that, why take a career in something I'm educated in? Maybe I should try something totally different. So I actually started my career as a financial advisor and trader for Morgan Stanley. And that was a really unique experience because it was 2001. And we were in the trade center. That was our training was on September 10th, started on September 10th of 2001. And then ended up ending on September 11th of 2001 when the building fell on us.
Whoa.
Wow.
And so I had a really unique entry point into the career world. And I was with Morgan Stanley for about a year and then moved over to CNA Financial, which is an insurance company, where I focused on rating agencies, regulators, and then investor relations and corporate FP&A, so financial planning and analysis. I had no background in this at all. And I got so lucky that I had such a warm, loving team at CNA who spent the time and trained me and taught me. And I had a lot of grit and work ethic. So this was a job where I used to work till 2 a.m. I was like the special analyst for the CFO who came in Monday and left on Thursdays. And while he was there, it was 24/7. Like we were always together. I worked every weekend, every night. But we were a team. And it was like one of the best experiences of my entire career. And I think everybody should have a job like that where you learn how to really work and be part of a group.
For sure.
So they taught me everything I knew about finance. I learned how to do GAAP to stat accounting. And I learned all of that on the job. I was not educated in that at all. And I ended up moving from there to Kraft Foods in finance. And so I ran the corporate overheads for Kraft and did the spinoff from Altria when that went through and recreated their organizations. I did all the corporate restructurings at Kraft Foods. I did all the financial planning for them. And that really taught me a lot about how you structure data, how you look at data, how you make good decisions, and as well as how do you explain this to higher level senior executives. So as like a corporate functions finance leader, I was working directly with the CFO of Kraft Foods, directly with the CEO of Kraft Foods.
Sure.
And so I'm like this 20-something young person going up and speaking to high-level executives at a Fortune 500 company and helping them understand their budgeting, their forecasting, things we need to do, how the corporate restructuring is going to look, how we recreate the new organizations. And that gave me a lot of background on how executives ask questions, what kind of information you need to put together, how do you anticipate questions and needs. And from there at Kraft is where they transitioned me out of finance. So when you start a company like Kraft, they have like every 2 years you rotate roles, but you usually rotate within your silo. So if you're finance, you're finance. If you're sales, you're sales. If you're marketing, you're marketing. And they had an initiative going where they were looking for people in the sales organization. They needed people who had financial acumen. And so they asked the finance group, do you have anybody who has financial acumen, but also has people skills? And there's not a lot of that. And my senior director raised my hand and I got sent over to customer trade marketing and category management, which is a lot of analytics. People think selling is just, glad handing and selling. It's not. It's really understanding your trade promotional plans. It's understanding your shelf set and what you need to build the category properly. Looking at platforms like Nielsen and IRI and being able to pull that data down and being able to organize it in a way and present it in a way that people can make decisions off of. And so I went into that role, really learned that. I went over to Beam Suntory, which was just Jim Beam at the time. Okay. And I ran 165 distributors across the country. I did all the sales KPIs. I worked with the marketing teams. I put together all of the analytics. I worked with all of the distributors and did a lot of the operations as well. So corporate demand planning. And then I eventually transitioned over to marketing when I joined Topco Associates a couple years later. And so I was able to actually run the full gamut of finance, sales, operations, and marketing. And that's really given me a holistic perspective of how each department runs and how the decisions you make in one department will affect another.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And that's usually a major issue is, marketing will make a decision and they don't realize what that means to ops or how they have to position that for finance. And they create a lot of churn and work. And I think the benefit I've had is that I have seen it from all angles. So I know what kind of work and churn my decisions create. And then I try to make sure that it doesn't do that when I work with those teams. So I make sure I get ahead of that so they feel much more comfortable with what I'm trying to do.
Gotcha.
I just wanted to say on behalf of everything you just said, you go, girl.
I have a question.
Okay, yeah, shout it out.
So as you were kind of describing about you being transitioned to go talk in front of these Fortune 500 CEOs and whatnot, how old were you at the time?
In my 20s. This is all before age 30.
How was that part of the part of you that's you have to try to make them take you seriously? How was that at the time?
That's a great question for a woman, especially.
That actually is a great question.
That's a great question.
I didn't really think about it. It is truly the answer. So when I was at CNA, I was a special analyst for the CFO, and I used to go in front of the CEO of CNA Financial. And I remember being in the cafeteria at CNA one day, and I was behind the CEO, and I was like, "Hey, Steve, how's it going?" And we started this conversation, and people are looking at me like, "Oh my God, I can't believe she's talking to him." Right. And he got his food, and he went on, and they're like, "Weren't you scared of him?" And I'm like, "No, I work with him every day." Like, it's nice. And, when you're exposed at an early age, I think you don't have time to get scared of people. Like the longer you go, so when you have children, they get you scared that if you give them peanut butter, that they're going to have an allergic reaction. You're going to end up in the hospital or they're going to die or something like that. And so a lot of parents will not expose their children to certain things because they are so fearful that it's going to cause that they're going to have an allergy that they end up causing an allergy.
Yeah.
Lack of exposure can cause an allergy. And so I think lack of exposure to high-level senior executives will cause people to be more fearful of them. Whereas with me, I sat in that room every day and I'm like 25. And if I mess up, I'm 25.
Yeah, right.
What do I have to lose here? It's not like I've been working for them for 20 years and I make a mistake. And, I learned really quickly how to just get along in front of executives. And I found that the harder I worked, the more time I put in, the more respect I got. And so I still remember when I was at CNA, we had lots of layoffs while I was there. And I had just gotten back from closing on my first condo, and I was so excited. And I come back in, and everybody's getting a pink slip around me. Everybody's being called in, and I'm like, oh my God, I just invested in this condo, and maybe I'm not what if I can't pay for it now?
Right. Yeah.
And my boss looks at me and goes, "You're fine." And everybody around us got laid off but our team, because we worked so hard. We did a lot. And so they saw the value in that. Years where people didn't get bonuses, our team still got bonuses because of how hard we worked. And so we really got a lot of respect from the senior executives because we were willing to do whatever it took to get the job done.
Amazing. Okay. I'm going to skip around a little bit. You answered a bunch of questions that I haven't even asked yet. That's how
Sorry.
good Laurie is, right? It's like there's a psychic bond here. You kind of touched on this one a little bit, but I wanted to ask it anyway. You managed $3 billion. That's with a B for the audience members listening. Brand portfolio at Topco. Can you explain what category management is for our audience?
Sure. So the $3 billion brand portfolio was not the category side. That was actually the brand side. And then there was I also ran the category side as well. I had about $1 billion under me. I managed all of the non-foods entities at Topco. So Topco is a private label product cooperative. They're about a $14 billion organization. They focus on innovation, aggregation, and knowledge management. And the overall ethos behind the organization was aggregation. How can they make their volume for private brands so they can compete with the likes of Walmart? And so a very old school organization. And so when I got there, that was such a fun experience. And actually, my mentor who brought me into Cannabis was with me at Topco. He hired me after meeting me for 15 minutes.
Wow.
One day we could get into the whole story about that. That was probably one of my most interesting interviews ever. But I was hired, and they wouldn't tell me when I got there what my role was because they were letting somebody go to give me the role. And so I ended up with general merchandise, which is your cookware, bakeware, kitchen gadgets, pet, charcoal, batteries, electrical, areas I had never worked in before. And the first thing the CEO said to me was, "This is a $100 million business unit. It's our smallest business unit. And it's been declining every single year. And if you don't fix no experience in this category," we were running a direct import model out of China. I had a junk pile across the street. I had a messed up P&L. I had people who hated my predecessors and hated general merchandise. I figured out how to pull that all together.
Sure.
And so that's category. And so I really had to revisit it, restructure that organization. I put that I could get everybody engaged and to get everybody to help me realign everything we were doing. And we went from a direct import model to a strategic partnership model where I had vertically integrated vendors who had integration into China so that they could actually help us source and then ship direct to our membership. And so that was really taking a look at those categories. And so when you talk about category management, what that really is looking at is like, what is the full solution for the category? What is the solution for that aisle? So whether it's at Topco or whether when I worked for Ragu and I ran the pasta sauce category, it's really looking at what is best for the category. What is going to help this category grow? And it's always going to be a mix of you and your competitors and making sure that you have the right shelf set up so that consumers understand what they should be buying, how they should be buying it, and what kind of solutions you can put together for them for dinner. So the biggest question at 3:00 is what's for dinner in every household, and you need to be able to put a solution together to make it easy for that consumer. And so category is really looking at the analytics behind the category, looking at who the competitors, so that you can grow that category. And so I did that for general merchandise. I did that for condiments and sauces. And then I did that for all of our non-foods business. I have much of a marketing department when I initially got to Topco. So we didn't really have an insights team. So insights being consumer research, both primary and secondary. We had very minimal innovation. Is that you had categories for private brands. So that could be like Big Y brand. So if you're in Massachusetts, Big Y is a grocery store. They have their own brand products. So Big Y brand. But then there was also category brands and what we called like Packer brands, which would be like a brand that we created that was our brand, but we could. And so that could either be a brand like Food Club or Full Circle. Like Full Circle was an organic brand. It crossed all categories. Or it could be like a small category brand, which could be something like Wide Awake Coffee, which would just be a coffee brand. Okay. And so when I managed the $3 billion portfolio, that was all of our brands. And really taking a look at, from a commercialization perspective and from a branding perspective, what is in these brands and does that make sense? Of my category managers who wanted to create products for the membership and wanted to put them into certain brands. And it was my role to say, here's the mission and the vision of the brand. Here's the positioning of this brand and making sure we had all of that together. Here's the target consumer, your brand promise, your brand essence. And everything we do needs to align with the brand. So an example of what would come at me was for like Full Circle, which I told you was organic. They'd want to do like a coconut oil. And I was like, that's great. And I'm like, so it's organic, right? And they're like, well, no. And I'm like, but Full Circle is an organic brand. Like that is part of our mission. That is a guardrail of this brand, that everything in here needs to be organic. And like, if it's not organic, and we put something not organic in an organic brand, we're going to kill the brand equity.
Yeah, people aren't going to trust the brand anymore.
For sure.
And so brand work, especially in a company like that, is a combination of category and then making sure you also really understand the entire the guidelines and the guardrails around the brand, which all had to be created because we didn't have anybody doing it before, and we didn't have consumer research data collected so that we could actually put some numbers behind these brands and being able to sell them in with real consumer research attached to it.
I'm starting to get a little bit concerned because we are fast approaching the 1 hour mark.
Sorry.
And I don't think we've even gone through half these questions.
Sorry, I'll try to be more succinct.
No,
It's
fine. We can just, if you want to just keep answering questions, we'll just keep the interview format going and skip the joke telling and the other stuff.
Okay, go ahead.
You want to pick this up, Samantha? I think this is a good question to ask here.
Yeah, I was looking at that one. So,
yeah.
I guess it feels like a plan for each one to actually expedite their growth. But was there any rules that you followed all the time, regardless, that exploded growth for a company usually?
Can you be more specific there?
Well, just like things you would do for a company that is pretty much
So the things that I do in any company, and it's not necessarily only just about exploding growth. I believe in actually building the foundation first. What I find a lot of companies really do is they get excited, they create packaging, they create products, and they forget about the foundation of what they're doing. So I always make sure everybody starts with the brand foundation. And with the brand foundation, I think it's very important to really build out that 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 brand strategy, because once you have that brand strategy created, which is really how the brand is positioned and how you want people to feel when they interact with your brand, I think you really have the foundation for success and growth going forward. So for, one of the things that I want people to feel when they interact with your brand, what I tell people is they won't remember what you tell them, but they will remember how you make them feel. So that is really the most important thing. And when people feel really strongly about something, when you can capture that consumer, when you can inspire and engage. One of the things that we talked about was this is cannabis, and we have dispensaries, and we really need to think about what this brand is going to mean. And when we did brand strategy, we decided that our brand essence was going to be love. And that was because we wanted everybody to feel safe, supported, and loved when they left our dispensary. We wanted all of our employees to feel safe, supported, and loved. And we wanted anybody who interacted with anybody from our team to feel safe, supported. And take your branding and you can utilize that to build the culture of the company. It's amazing what you can do. Because especially in small companies, in cannabis companies, which are all small, for the most part, even the big ones are small, everybody needs to live and breathe the brand every day. And so I always say it's really important because that's really what's going to drive that growth, is really having that culture and that brand essence that everybody feels when they interact with the brand. And that's what's going to grow the brand. I always say, if you do the right things and you lead with love, that revenue growth is going to follow, because people will be inspired and they will want to be part of it. And so one of the things we did was our first campaign for social media was Wellness Your Way, Live Your Best Life. And we went out to our employee base and we said, okay, tell us what brought, if you want to participate in what cannabis means to you, just, a little video on your phone and send it in to us. And we're going to pick 5 people. We're going to bring them into Chicago. We're going to do a video and photo shoot, and you're going to tell your story. You'll be ambassadors.
Oh, fun.
And the goal there was to make sure that consumers out there would maybe not feel so alone in the world, that they could go on social media, they could learn, they could hear what someone said, and then they could go see them in the dispensary if they wanted to. And they could also say, like, one woman with autoimmune, and someone could say, well, I have autoimmune. If she could do it, maybe I could do it too, maybe. And so it was really all about building that community and that place where people could really interact and feel like their questions could be answered in a safe, supportive, loving environment. And that campaign, we did an audit of our social media before we started, which was not even existent, against like 7 of our competitors. And we were not even on the map. And within 2 months of that, our competitors put together.
Wow,
nice.
impressive.
And so
that is amazing.
Cannabis is all about the people. And whether you're a consumer or whether you work in the industry, it's really about how wonderful and beautiful and amazing people in this industry are. We're all corporate misfits who didn't fit in corporate America, and being able to build that community is really what makes this industry so special.
Well, I think a lot of the tight community bonds are really important for the cannabis community, because we're really limited, unfortunately, especially because it's still not normalized yet. Like, you're still talking about your family members thinking you're going to jail for doing this, and people not realizing that this is medicine and those kind of things. So.
Well, when I joined the industry, so in my town in Illinois, we were going adult use in the state of Illinois in January of 2020. And so all the villages were trying to figure out whether they were going to opt in or opt out. You had the choice in Illinois. And I went to my village meeting. And the first one I went to was just me versus another guy. He was no, I was yes, but we could have a good conversation because he was a respectful, decent guy. The second time I went, it was standing room only. And there was this whole group of people with opt-out t-shirts. And I recognized our skating team. And I waited for everybody to talk, and then I got up at the end, and I dispelled all of the misinformation that I heard, which was a lot. And after that, a lot of those parents wouldn't let their kids sit with my daughter on the bus to competitions. They wouldn't carpool with me because they thought I was a drug dealer and I was going to be giving their kids cannabis. And those same parents are now asking me for help because they want to learn about it.
Awesome.
That's a great story, at least.
Things have come full circle for you on that.
The terrible treatment at least comes around, I guess.
It's amazing how far the industry has come. I mean, people who were afraid of it, who thought I was like standing out on the corner, are now like, oh, this is actually interesting. And I always believe that it's not our job in this industry to change people's minds. We're not going to fight an enemy who has outposts in people's heads. But what I want to make sure we do is educate people. They should be making decisions from a point of knowledge versus assumption.
Yeah.
And if I give them the knowledge and they still feel the way they feel, that's totally fine. That is their decision, and I am happy for them decision.
Awesome. That's a great way to. We spoke a little bit about this just recently. What was the biggest culture shock you had when you're like working in the legitimate industry and then you step into the cannabis, not legitimate, but not the cannabis industry, and then you move into the cannabis industry? I'm guessing it was, you were probably surprised about the mandatory bong trips when you walk in.
Well, there was that, and the hug-a-nug. I had a hug-a-nug in one of my dispensaries that we developed. It was like a whole new world for me. Funny. But I would say the biggest culture shock is, like, I come out of consumer packaged goods, and I see a lot of my colleagues come into cannabis from consumer packaged goods and then leave. And a lot of the culture shock is that when you're not in the industry, you think that everybody in cannabis is rolling around in bathtubs of cash. Yeah. Every time I get on stage this week, I'm like, is anybody here rolling around in a bathtub of cash? Because if so, I'd like to meet you.
Right?
Because when you work in CPG, you have big marketing budgets, like millions and millions of dollars. Like, and when I say millions, I don't mean like 4 million. I mean like 60 million. And you come into cannabis and you know it's not going to be as big as that, but you think it's going to be bigger than what it is. And you also believe that everything that you learn in consumer packaged goods, you can just bring into cannabis because, it's just another consumer product. No. The key in cannabis, when you come from another industry, is knowing what to take, which is not ready for a lot of things yet. And so when I came into this space, I had run, I told you, customer trade marketing, which is, all about promotion management. And I walked into one of my dispensaries and I was like, you guys are doing daily deals every day. Who's paying for all this? And they all looked at me like a deer in headlights. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, who's paying for these promotions? They're like, we just mark it down. And I'm like, so we're paying to promote other people's brands and products? And they're like, yeah, that's what we do. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not what we do. And nobody knew anything about customer trade marketing. Now everybody knows about those who we were buying, buying our products from, who are also our competitors, and sitting down with them and saying, okay, let's do joint business planning. We all need to grow together. And so here's what the things that we want from you, and here's what we will give you in return. And part of that was, I want you to fund promotions, and we'll plan them out so you know exactly when they're going to happen. You have the product produced, and we're all good to go. A lot of my colleagues were like, nobody's going to buy into that. They all bought into that. We're all like, great,
Nice.
We can plan and we know what's happening. This is so much better for us because it helps our supply chain look like. And, but it took a lot of convincing because people didn't really believe something like that could happen. But there's a lot of other examples that come out of CPG where the industry is just not ready for it yet. So one of the things I always say is it's great to be visionary, because when you're visionary, it means you're innovative, you're ahead of, you miss the boat because the industry is not ready for you yet. And as cool as that sounds, you'll try something, it won't work. And then somebody will come in a couple years later at the right time, and they'll make millions of dollars off of it because of their timing, because the industry was ready for it. So you don't want to miss the boat because you're too ahead of your time. And that's, I think, one of the big struggles for CPG people is really understanding, what they need to bring with them and what they need to hold back. Just aren't there. Everybody's a doer in the cannabis space. There's not like these executives who are sitting in ivory towers doing nothing. Everybody's doing the work.
Samantha, I'm going to ask the next question, and then it'd be great questions for you to ask, Laurie. Let's see. In 2020, you founded LKP Impact Consulting. What did you see that was going on that you were like, hey, there's a problem here, and I have a solution? How did that happen?
So I got laid off from a cannabis company, to be perfectly honest. So I joined the cannabis industry. It was my dream job. I was finally part of something bigger than myself. The industry spoke to me, and then I got laid off. And I didn't. And I remember calling my counterparts at the other MSOs, and they were all like, "Oh, we're doing great. We'll throw you some work. Don't worry. We're doing phenomenally." Within 2 months, they had all been let go as well.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Ow.
So all marketers were on the street. And this cycles at least every year. And so that's when I realized that the 6 months. In traditional industries, the tenure of a CMO is only 18 months. And the problem is that it takes about 18 months to build a brand. And even building my own personal brand and living and breathing in my own body, it took 18 months. And so what ends up happening is the CMO starts, they start building up the brand. It doesn't move quickly enough for people. And so leadership gets frustrated, investors get frustrated. They let that CMO go. New person comes in, gets credit for what the old CMO did, but then they have to produce new results, and then the cycle starts again. And so the cost of hiring an executive leader. So if you hire a full-time CMO, any CMO worth their salt is going to require a six-figure salary, probably over $200,000. Then you're going to have to think about benefits and bonus and equity and a negotiated severance package. So before you've even spent a dollar on marketing, you spend probably at least about 500,000. Not an expert in every facet of marketing. This is always something that I have to dispel about marketing, is that it's like, in some ways, it's like medicine. So when you go to all doctors get a basic medical education. They all graduated from medical school.
Okay,
then someone becomes a dermatologist, and someone becomes a cardiologist. You would never go to your dermatologist for a heart problem. And so marketing is not all that different in the sense that you can't be I'm sure there's a couple of people who are, but you really aren't an expert in every facet of marketing. You know enough to be dangerous, but you're going to have your specialties, and then you know how to manage every CMO. And so that CMO is going to have to fill in their gaps. And that means they're either going to have to hire people or they're going to have to hire agency. So before you've spent $1 on marketing, you've likely spent $1 million just to build your marketing team. Wow. And that is not financially viable for a cannabis company. And so what we say is we can provide you everything you need for less than the cost of one person. Is probably a marketing manager or director. And so you could staff your whole team with us for less than the cost of one human.
Very nice. I could see how that would be a huge advantage. So how's business, Laurie?
So like everybody, we have our ups and downs, but 2025 is our best year yet.
Yay!
We've grown over 40%. And every year we have continued an upward trajectory, and hopefully that continues into the future. But it's been a good year so far, and we're looking forward to 2026. We have some really great clients. As I said, we span the industry. So sometimes we have a lot of operators, sometimes we have a lot of brands, sometimes we have a lot of ancillary, sometimes it's a mix. And being able to work across the industry is really what sets us apart.
I really like to support women. Just one reason I brought you two ladies on the show together. I kind of feel like Samantha's a getting started version of a Laurie Parfitt maybe later in life. She's such a go-getter. I'm very impressed with Sam. She's always doing something or going somewhere. She's always active. So and I'm very impressed with you ladies. So if there's anything ever I can do to help promote what you ladies are doing, feel free to let me know. I'll let you take the next question, Sam.
Sure. As a successful entrepreneur, businesswoman, how does it make you feel being more of like a role model for young women in the industry? I guess, do you have anything you would want to say to those kinds of people that are also still trying to grow their businesses or just trying to be successful in what they do?
I love being a mentor for, it's not even always younger women or girls in the industry or in general. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's women who are older than me who just are interested in what I do or they're newer to this space. So, a lot of what I do is I mentor and coach for a lot of organizations. So I used to do it for Illinois Women in Cannabis. I do it for SEMA. It's a digital marketing organization. So I mentor every year a college or graduate student. I also teach positioning for an incubator at my daughter's high school. Really, it's their own business plans and they present it. And so I started out helping out in the positioning class, and now I'm a mentor and coach for a group every year. We bring them all the way to full competition. And so I believe it's my responsibility in a good way to help younger or less experienced people build up their careers. And so I want to pass that on to others as well. And so I am always willing to mentor and coach and build other people up within the industry, not just young girls or women, but anybody. Anybody who wants to learn and has a genuine interest in marketing or in leadership or what it takes to build your career,
Wow.
I want to help you. And so also, it doesn't only have to be in my facet of the space. It can be anywhere. I want to help those people grow. One of the things I did during COVID when I first got laid off was I mentored and coached for an organization called The Hatchery. They're a nonprofit food and beverage incubator in West Garfield Park here in Illinois. And they have lots of entrepreneurs who go through this program and they want to create food and beverage brands. And I used to spend every Friday, all day long, call after call, coaching entrepreneurs on how to build their businesses. And that's a really rewarding thing.
Yeah,
Because it's amazing to see what people can do when you just give them a little support and direction. And, it takes time, it takes effort, but it's probably the most rewarding part of what I do.
Samantha, sorry, I'm kind of throwing you under the bus, but I think this is the question that makes the most sense to follow up with after. Can you take this one?
Yeah. Through your mentorship, where you're at,
my advice is to always, in the cannabis industry, is hard. This is the most painful industry to be in, but it's also the most amazing, wonderful industry to be in. And so just when you think you're not going to make it, things are bad, that's when you need to keep going. Most failures happen just as an entrepreneur is getting to success. And so you just have to keep going. And one of the best pieces of advice, and one event you don't want to go to because it's going to be a pain. To go downtown, it's going to be traffic and parking, and you don't really think you're going to get anything out of it. That's the event where you'll get your $1 million client. And so don't hold yourself back. Go to things, meet with people, talk to people, and build your personal brand. Because the more you do that, at first you're going after everything. And after a while, your brand will precede you and it will all come to you.
I totally feel that. A lot of times I feel like with this podcast, I'm just spinning my wheels. I'm wondering who's listening or if anybody even hears or if this even matters. But you're right. You just got to keep great message.
Yeah.
Yeah, I very much agree. On cannabis side, that I was not going to get enough business and that it was not going to be driving enough for me to be successful on it alone. And I told myself that so many times, but I told myself I wasn't allowed to give up for much, much longer. And I kept going long enough, and now I'm actually to the point where I'm actually going to be breaking away from my other full-time job and finally doing it on my own. So I resonate with that quite
really
a bit.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Yay!
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked.
A great story.
Yeah, that is. So, yeah, I have an opening on the 14th. If you want to finally come back.
Yeah, I'll try.
Oh, speaking of that,
What?
Too, Laurie, I don't know if you know this about my show, but I like to have people on as a guest, and then I like to invite them back later as a co-host for us to do a show together. And I already have something set up for you if you have availability. And I already talked to the guest, and she's totally stoked to do a show with you. And that's Luna.
Oh my God, she's like my favorite.
28th.
Luna Stour.
She's so excited.
Oh my gosh, they're very.
Okay, all right, great. So be there on the 28th. If you can totally make it, I want you to be there.
And I would love to be on the show with her.
Sweet. Awesome. Yeah, that's going to be a great show too. Yeah. That's going to be a good one. I'm totally excited.
That will be a good one.
Oh, I'll have to text her.
Oh, yeah.
So fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to know her and you at the same time at MJ Impact last year. You were both at Spotlight, and she was talking about empowering women.
Yes, and dinner group. Not at every conference, but like so Angela Pye, Whitney Conroy, and I have been planning these, and Luna always participated. So that night we were all at dinner together as well. And what's so awesome is that so many of us in the industry, whether we're competitors or not, we're all friends. We all together. And Luna is just one of those amazing, beautiful people who makes me so excited to always be in this space because everything about her is just awesome. Yeah,
that's how I feel about you ladies. Well, it didn't take me long. I only had to see you speaking, and I was like, wow, these women are real power. All those ladies on the Empowering Women panel were amazing. That was a really great. I learned a lot that day. That was amazing. So yeah, that was really great at MG Unpacked. I got to know you, and then I bumped into you guys a couple times, you ladies a couple times, and now you're on my show. Yay!
Well, and I love the Missouri market. I actually think it's one of the best run markets, if not the best run market in the country. It's around Missouri and how that market has the trajectory of that market. It's done exceptionally well and been really able to hold its own. And what I attribute that to is one, MoCan Trade is the best trade organization in the country. And they've really been able to get everybody in the industry in Missouri together. And the other part of that is that I think a lot of those operators work really well together. And so it's coming out for MJ Impact because it's really great to see that in the Missouri market.
For sure. Oh, hey, I didn't even give you a chance to talk about what you're actually, both you ladies. We'll start with you, Laurie. What do you have that's coming up that you would like to
absolutely. So if you'd like to see me again, I will be on stage at the Ohio Cannabis Health and Business Summit in Cleveland on this Friday. So October 3rd, I will be on stage at 50. I will be speaking with Steph Woods, where we both are with Headset. We'll be talking about data nationally and how the cannabis industry is trending nationally. And then we'll also be talking about how the Ohio market is doing. Anaheim the following week. With Ignited. So Ignited is actually the new iteration of Benzinga. So if you've been in the industry a while, you know Benzinga. They do these amazing conferences. The leadership of Benzinga, so Elliot and Jason and Patrick and Javier took the cannabis platform and they've created this new entity called Ignited. And they're going to be doing a market spotlight in Anaheim on October 8th. I will be speaking there on supply chain. They'll also be doing 2 events in November, one in DC in mid-November. So hopefully everybody can make it to those as well. And then you'll see me at MJ BizCon. I'm on stage like 3 times. We'll be doing a data panel. I'll be speaking on the Illinois market with my good friend Kurt Kaufman. So please come see me. We're really excited to be at all these events. And I'm really excited about this Friday to be up there with Headset because Headset data is the best data in the industry.
That's where you get a lot of your industry insights.
Yeah, and so I became friends with Headset years ago when I joined the space, And what I love about, I told you I came from category management, which is a lot of data analytics, pulling Nielsen and IRI. So when I first got into this space, I remember I was supposed to reassort our dispensaries, and I was like, okay, so where's the market structure? They're like, we don't know what that is. I'm like, consumer path to purchase. They're like, yeah, we don't know what that is either. I'm like, how about data? They're like, well, we have BDSA, but only for mature markets, and we don't operate in any of them. So I found Headset, and Headset has what they call POS data, which means that they actually hook into retailers' POS. So that's actually data coming out of the POS. To focus on your own dispensary and on your own brand, but you also need to know what's going on in your marketplace. And Headset's one of the only platforms out there that allows you to see what's going on within the marketplace in total. What are those top brands? What are the top products? So that you're not making decisions in a vacuum.
Nice. That's a great commercial for Headset. Thank you. Headset, that's really great, making how your business moves going forward.
It can. I think data is one of the most important things we have in this industry. So it's been exciting to see the iteration, but it still has so much more runway to grow.
I think I'll ask this one last question. What's the question that people don't ask you that you wish you could address?
I wish people would ask me when they come into the industry what they, because everybody who joins the cannabis space, for the most part, they all want to get a license. And that's not the only option out there. It's maybe not even the best option out there.
I would agree with that.
There are so many ways you can support this industry without having a license. And so I think it's really important that you look at your skill set and look at where you excel. That a license is going to be your golden ticket, because it can also be your money pit.
I can speak from experience that the license that I got is a boat anchor around my neck and not the blessing that I had hoped it would be.
And I hear that a lot. And, funding's really tight in this space, and getting your business up and running can be very, very challenging. And, when I first came in, I was like, well, maybe I should get a license or start a brand or something like that. And one of my colleagues, who was one of the original lawyers in the space here in Illinois, was with GTI for many years. She always would say, like, there's other spots in this industry for people. We need infrastructure consulting. All of those things are necessary for this space. It doesn't have to always be about the license. And so I wish people would ask me more about what other options are there within the space to get into versus just applying for licenses or just starting a brand.
Very good. Awesome. Sam, did you want to tell everybody about anything that you have coming up? That,
so I was touching on a little bit earlier on October 30th. I'm basically addressing the funding problem with the businesses, employees, etc. Primarily since the federal government is putting constraints on banks, we can't get funding for anything cannabis related for the most part, unless you go through private meeting here in KC. I will be going there and speaking in front of them and telling them, hey, we need assistance in this industry, not just for the businesses. We're all not just a whole bunch of potheads trying to make money. We're also trying to buy homes and cars and live our lives. And it's just discriminatory at this point. It's legal in states that it is legal. We should be allowed to do at least some kind of banking. And we're not asking for special privileges. We're just asking for guidance in the banking world regarding cannabis. And right now we have nothing really to go off of. So everybody's just kind of winging it. And so hopefully, we could see some change if it makes the IC can bring more overwhelming majority to the meeting that are all representing the cannabis industry, standing by my side at this meeting. You know, being there with me dressed in green and representing that, hey, this is a big part of the industry in the state. We need help.
Where is this going to be?
Federal Reserve Bank in near downtown KC. It is kind of early, but October 30th, and we're meeting out front in front of the large statue before we start the meeting, just to kind of have a powwow.
Nice.
Yeah, you can register for that on my link tree, just so I can see how many people are going to be going to the event. I'm trying to get some sponsors for some shirts so we can all match.
Right. Awesome.
Put some nonprofits on there. Normal, Jane there. So hopefully we can get.
Right on. Well, I'll run a commercial for you on my podcast to help promote your thing. If I have anything else going on,
Sick.
My social calendar. My wife's in charge of that. She'll let me know.
Not a lot of people have a lot going on at 8:45 in the morning, unless you got a 9 to 5.
Right, yeah.
So.
Children.
Yeah.
That too. Yep. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. I would love it. You girls don't have to, but after your experience on the Weedcast, if you could provide a testimonial about your experience tonight, it would help me so much.
Let us know how to do that.
Well, you
We'd
could
be
just
happy
say,
to.
I have really enjoyed my time on the Weedcast. Dave is awesome. This is the best interview of my life.
I couldn't agree with you more. It is.
Much, Laurie. I can't wait to have you back on the 28th. And the same with
I
Sam.
know. I'm excited too. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak with Luna.
Yeah, she's going to be an amazing guest. But I'm super excited.
Yes, excited to watch that one.
I think that's all I had. Did you have anything that you wanted to finish up with, Sam?
No, I think that was it. I think you answered my questions for the most part.
Okay, so just I want to remind everybody, next week was I'm going to be the guest, and my wife is going to be the host in the podcasting for so long. She's so shy. I cannot believe she said yes to this. So we'll see what happens next week. But it should be good. I'm really excited to have Idle on, and then the Spock of Cannabis, Darwin Millard is coming on, and then hopefully a month. So we got a lot of good shows coming up later in the month, everybody. Thanks everybody so much for being here and sticking with us through to the end. Thank you so much to our guests for being here. Take care. We'll see you next week, everybody. No, there's always a long, awkward pause.